I came home after a 26-hour nursing shift and found a second fridge in the kitchen. My son's wife said with a sneer, "That one's mine. From now on, buy your own food." She put labels with her name on everything I bought, forgetting they lived there without paying a single dollar in rent. So I prepared a surprise that made them wake up crying. I got home after 26 straight hours at the hospital, 26 hours saving lives, holding trembling hands, cleaning wounds that weren't mine. My feet were on fire inside those once new white shoes. My back was a knot of pain. My hands smelled like disinfectant and the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones when you're not young anymore. I'm 67 years old. I'm a nurse, and I thought the hardest parts of my life were over. I was wrong. When I opened the door to my kitchen, the one I'd cleaned 1,000 times, where I'd cooked every one of my son's birthday meals, where I'd cried over my husband's death, I saw something that didn't belong. A new shiny silver refrigerator right next to mine. I just stood in the doorway, my bag hanging from my shoulder, trying to understand. Had they bought a fridge without telling me what for? Ours worked perfectly fine. Then I heard her voice. "That one's mine. Jessica, my daughter-in-law." She came out of the hallway with that face I knew all too well, that mix of disdain and boredom, as if I were an annoying fly in her space. "What did you say?" I asked. My voice sounded hoarse. I hadn't spoken to anyone outside the hospital for hours. "The fridge, it's mine." She crossed her arms, leaning against the doorframe. "From now on, buy your own food, Hope." She didn't call me mom-in-law. She didn't call me ma'am. She called me by my name like we were roommates, like this wasn't my house. I opened the old fridge, and the air left my lungs. Everything, absolutely everything I had bought 3 days before had yellow sticky labels with her name written on them in black marker. Jessica, the cheese, the tomatoes, the yogurt, the beans, the chicken, even the butter. "What is this?" I whispered. "What I told you." "This is my food, you buy yours." She shrugged. "It's not fair that I have to share what I buy with my money." Her money. Jessica didn't work. She hadn't worked a single day since she married my son 2 years ago. Daniel was the one who supposedly brought in the money, although lately that money seemed to be coming from my own savings every time I loaned them cash for gas, for groceries, for some emergency. Daniel. I tried to call for my son, but he was already there, standing in his bedroom doorway, looking at me with eyes I no longer recognized. The same eyes that looked at me with love when he was a boy. Now there was only discomfort. "Mom, don't make a scene. Jessica's right. We should each buy our own stuff. It's more organized this way." I felt the floor shift beneath me. "But I bought this. I paid for this week's groceries." "And that's why it has her name on it, right?" Jessica said, pointing at the labels. "Now we all know what belongs to who. It's easier." I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip off every single yellow label and throw them in her face. But I was so tired, so terribly tired. I just nodded. I went to my room. I closed the door. And for the first time in years, I sat on the edge of my bed and let myself feel the full weight of what had just happened. They lived in my house, the house I bought by myself on my nurse's salary after my husband died and left me with nothing but debt and an 8-year-old son with chronic asthma. I worked double shifts, triple shifts. I scrubbed hospital floors at 3 in the morning to pay the mortgage. I skipped meals so Daniel could have his medicine. And now they were making me pay to eat in my own kitchen. I took off my shoes. My feet were swollen, red. I had a new blister on my left heel. I couldn't even remember when I got it. I heard laughter from the living room. Jessica and Daniel were watching TV. I heard the microwave beep, the smell of popcorn. Popcorn I couldn't eat because it had her name on it. I closed my eyes, and in that silence, in the darkness of my own room, something inside me began to change. I didn't know it yet, but that night, exhausted and humiliated, was the last night I would let them treat me like a stranger in my own home. Because sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's just the calm before the storm. If this story is touching your heart, subscribe to the channel to follow me to the very end, because what comes next, nobody saw coming, not even me. But what I discovered a few days later would make those yellow labels seem like just the beginning of my ordeal. I thought the labels were rock bottom, that they couldn't sink any lower. How naive I was. 3 days later, I came back from another shift at the hospital. This time only 12 hours. But it had been 12 hours of hell. A little girl with severe burns. An old man who died while I held his hand because he had no family. I came home wanting nothing more than a hot cup of tea and silence. I went into the bathroom, and there they were. More yellow labels, on the shampoo, on the soap, on the toothpaste, even on the toilet paper. Jessica. I stood frozen, staring at my own toothbrush, the only object without a label, as if it were the last thing I had left in the world. I left the bathroom. I went to the kitchen. The pots had labels, the pans, the glasses, the plates. I opened the silverware drawer, even the forks, the damned forks. Looking for something. Jessica's voice came from right behind me. I jumped. I hadn't heard her come in. Jessica, this is too much. Too much. She tilted her head with that smile that never reached her eyes. Hope I'm just protecting my things. You know how it is. Sometimes things get lost, mixed up. This way, we all know what belongs to who. But I bought these pots. I bought these plates. 20 years ago. Ah, she shrugged. Then put your name on them, too. I put mine on what's mine. And what exactly did you buy? The words came out harsher than I intended. Her eyes narrowed. Watch your tone, mother-in-law. I'm your son's wife. I deserve respect. Respect. That word echoed in my head as she turned and walked back to the living room where the TV was still blaring. That night, Jessica cooked. The smell filled the whole house. Pot roast, my favorite, the one I had taught her how to make when they first got married. In those early months when we were still pretending to be a happy family, I stayed in my room. My stomach was growling. I hadn't eaten dinner. I only had coffee at the hospital. I thought about going out, getting a little. It was pot roast. She had used my recipe, but I didn't. I couldn't. Not after the labels, not after understanding that every bite I took from that kitchen would be a defeat. I heard their laughter, Daniel and her. They were talking about a TV show, about going on vacation to Florida. When we sell your mom's car, we could have enough for the hotel, Jessica said. Silence. I don't know if she wants to sell it, Daniel answered in a weak voice. Oh, honey, that car is old. She hardly uses it. We need it more. I didn't hear what my son said back. I only heard that he didn't defend me. The next morning I went downstairs early. I had the day off. I needed to talk to Daniel. Alone. Without her. I found him in the kitchen drinking coffee. My coffee. From my coffee maker, which now had a yellow label. Son, we need to talk. He looked up. I saw the dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired, older than his 32 years. Mom, if this is about the labels... It's not just about the labels, Daniel. It's about everything. I sat across from him. It's about how you talk to me, how you treat me. This is my house. I know. Do you really? Because it doesn't feel like it? I took a deep breath. You two don't pay rent. You don't pay utilities. You don't pay property taxes. Nothing. And now it turns out I can't even use my own soap. He rubbed his face. Mom Jessica is my wife. I have to support her. If you don't like how she handles things, maybe you should think about finding your own place. The world stopped. My own place. I don't mean it in a bad way. But we're a young couple. We need our space, privacy. We can't always be worrying if how we organize the house bothers you. My house, Daniel. My house. I know it's legally your house, Mom. You don't have to keep saying it. His tone became irritated. But it's also where I live, where my wife lives. And frankly, sometimes I feel like Jessica is right. You're very old-fashioned. You don't understand how modern families work. I stood up. I didn't say anything else. What could I say? I went up to my room. I took out a box from the closet. A box I hadn't opened in years. Inside were photos. Daniel as a baby, Daniel with his nebulizer, those huge eyes looking at me with fear every time he couldn't breathe. Daniel at his middle school graduation, at his first communion, at the hospital, after the surgery that saved his life when he was 11. The surgery that cost $28,000, that I paid for by selling my car, taking out loans, working at 2 hospitals at once. I ran my fingers over the photos, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel love. I felt something colder, more dangerous. I felt clarity, because my son had just told me to find another place to live, in the house I bought, with the money I earned caring for the sick while he slept peacefully, knowing his mom would never let him fall. I put the photos away. That night, Jessica cooked again, this time a casserole. The smell was a knife in my empty stomach. I didn't leave my room. I stayed there in the dark, listening to their laughter. And I started to plan. Because if 39 years of being a nurse had taught me anything, it was this: you don't heal pain by ignoring it. You heal it by cutting out what's rotten. And something in that house had rotted. But what I found 2 days later hidden in my son's drawer would change everything forever. On Saturday, I decided to clean, not because the house needed it, but because I needed to do something with my hands, something to make me feel like I still had control over some corner of my own life. Jessica and Daniel had gone out to look at some things for the apartment, they said. I didn't ask what apartment. I didn't ask anything anymore. I started with the living room, then the bathroom. Then I stopped in front of Daniel's bedroom door. His room. The one that had been his since he was 8. The one I painted blue because it was his favorite color. The one we filled with soccer posters and then rock band posters. I went in. The bed was unmade. Clothes were thrown on the floor. It smelled of that sweet perfume Jessica wore. Nothing of my son's smell. The boy who smelled like soap and dirt after playing outside. I started picking up. I folded the clothes. I made the bed. I wiped down the furniture. And then I saw the nightstand drawer was slightly open. I wasn't going to open it. I really wasn't. But something shiny inside caught my eye. The afternoon sun was hitting it directly, and the glint got my attention. I opened the drawer. Papers. Lots of messy papers. Old receipts. Printed photos of Jessica at the beach and expensive restaurants at bars. All recent. All taken while I was loaning them money for gas. I kept digging, not knowing exactly what I was looking for. And then I saw it. A manila envelope. Thick. With my name written on top in Daniel's handwriting. Mom, important documents. I took them out with trembling hands. Inside were the deeds to the house, the ones I kept in my room and my filing cabinet. How did they get in here? Underneath the deeds was another document. A promissory note, notarized, dated 2 years ago. Loan, $45,000. Debtor Daniel Miller. Creditor Hope Miller. Purpose initial investment for an imported auto parts business. I remembered everything. 2 years ago, Daniel came to me excited. He had a plan. A friend had proposed a business idea, importing car parts from overseas. He was going to be a millionaire. He just needed $45,000 to start. I had that money. I had saved it for 10 years. It was for my retirement, for when I couldn't work anymore. But he was my son, my only son. I'll pay you back in 6 months, Mom, with interest. You'll see. We signed it in front of a notary because he insisted. So you see I'm serious, he said. The business never worked out. The friend disappeared with part of the money. Daniel never spoke of the loan again. And I never asked him about it, because he was my son, and a mother doesn't charge for what she gives with love. Or does she? I kept looking through the envelope. There were more papers, bank statements, from 6 months ago, an account I didn't recognize, in Daniel's name, with regular deposits of $1,500, $2,000. Where was this money coming from if he supposedly wasn't working? And at the very bottom, a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. It was a printout of text messages between Daniel and Jessica. Jessica. I already talked to the realtor. He says this house in this area is worth like $300,000. Daniel. That's a lot. Jessica. That's the point, honey. Your mom is old. She's not going to live forever. And when she's gone, who is she going to leave the house to Daniel me? I'm an only child. Jessica, exactly. But why wait? Convince her to sell it. We'll tell her it's so she can move somewhere smaller, easier to manage. She keeps $100,000, we keep 200. And with that, we can start our real life, far away from here. Daniel. I don't know. She's going to be mad. Jessica. She'll get over it. Besides, what's she going to do? Kick us out? You're her son. She won't leave you on the street. We'll give her a few months of the special treatment. Soften her up, and that's it. Daniel's special treatment, LOL. Jessica. You'll see. In 2 months, she'll be begging us to help her sell. The date on the message, 3 months ago. The labels appeared 2 weeks after that conversation. I dropped the papers. I sat on my son's bed, and I started to shake. Not from fear, from rage. Pure boiling rage that rose from my stomach to my throat. They were pushing me out of my own house with a plan, step by step, humiliation by humiliation. And my son. My son knew. He had planned it. I took pictures of everything with my phone. The messages, the promissory note, the bank statements, the deeds that had no business being in that drawer. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I closed the drawer. I left the room, and I went down to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it. I looked around. The 2 fridges, the yellow labels on everything. The house I bought with my pain, with my night shifts, with my knees ruined from standing 12 hours a day. The house where I raised my son alone after his father died. The son who now wanted to sell it, to leave with his wife, far away from me. I wiped away the tears I didn't know were falling, and in that moment, something inside me broke for good, but not how they expected. I didn't break down, I broke forward, because it's one thing to forgive, it's another to be a fool. And I had been a fool long enough. I took out my phone, I searched online. Eviction lawyer Chicago. Several names popped up. I chose one, Mr. Ernest Miller, good reviews, office near downtown. I dialed. A secretary answered. Miller Law Firm. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My voice sounded firm. Surprisingly firm. I need an urgent appointment. I want to evict someone from my property. Is it a tenant? No, it's my son. There was a brief silence. I see. When can you come in? Tomorrow if possible. Let me check. Yes, we have a spot at 11 in the morning. I'll be there. I hung up. I heard the front door open. They were back. We're home, Jessica yelled in that sing-song voice she used when she was in a good mood. Hope, is there anything for dinner? I took a deep breath. I walked out of the kitchen with a smile. Not yet. Do you want me to make something? Jessica looked at me surprised. Daniel, too. Yeah. Whatever is fine, my son said. Perfect. I nodded. I'll make you some eggs. It'll be ready in a minute. They looked at me strangely. Of course they did. I had barely spoken to them for days, barely left my room. But now I was smiling, because now I knew something they didn't. Wars aren't won by the one who shouts the loudest. They're won by the one who strikes when the enemy lets their guard down. That night, I cooked them dinner. I set the table. I even washed the dishes. Jessica and Daniel exchanged confused glances. Are you okay, Mom? He asked. Very well, son. I just thought... You're right. I've been too tense. I'm sorry about that, Jessica smiled, a victorious smile. I'm glad you understand, Hope. In the end, we all want what's best for the family, right? Of course, I replied, looking her straight in the eye. What's best for the family? I went up to my room, closed the door, and for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, because tomorrow the war would begin, and they didn't even know they had already lost. What the lawyer told me the next day was the beginning of the end for them. On Monday, at 11 o'clock sharp, I was sitting across from Mr. Ernest Miller. His office smelled of coffee and old paper. He had a huge bookshelf filled with legal codes. On the wall, his law degree hung next to a picture with the governor. He looked serious, but his eyes were kind. Tell me everything, Mrs. Miller. Take your time. And I told him. The labels, the messages, the loan, they never paid back the house in my name, everything. He took notes, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he took off his glasses and looked at me intently. Do you have proof of all this? I have pictures of the messages. I have the notarized promissory note for the loan. I have the deeds to the house. Everything is in my name. Do they pay rent? No. Nothing utilities. Not those either. I pay for everything. Electricity, water, gas, property tax, internet. Everything. He nodded slowly. Ma'am, legally, you have every right to evict them. It's your property. They have no lease agreement. They pay nothing. They are what we call occupants without title. He paused. But he's your son. Are you sure about this? I was quiet for a moment. Was I sure? I thought about the yellow labels, the messages planning to sell my house, Daniel telling me to find another place. Yes, I replied. I'm sure. All right, I need you to sign a power of attorney. We'll start the legal process. It will take a few weeks, but we can speed things up if they don't cooperate. He opened a folder. We can also claim the loan. With interest, we'd be talking about, let me calculate, around $62,000. The figure made me dizzy. That much? Interest accumulates, ma'am. And your son signed a legal promissory note. That's money you can claim. I signed the papers. I paid the retainer fee for his services, $1,500 money I had saved for emergencies. This was an emergency. I left the office with a strange feeling in my chest, as if I had just jumped out of a plane without being sure the parachute would open, but there was no turning back. That same evening, I got home later than usual. I had stopped by the supermarket. I bought my own things, mine, the ones I would label if necessary. When I opened the door, I heard voices in the living room, many voices. I walked in and froze. Jessica's parents, Sebastian and Rachel, were sitting on my couch as if they owned the place. Ah, the mother-in-law has arrived, Rachel said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Good evening, I mumbled. Hope, come sit down, Jessica said, pointing to a chair, a single chair in my own living room while they occupied the couches. I sat. What else could I do? Look, mother-in-law. Sebastian began, a heavy-set man with a mustache and a booming voice. We've gathered here because we need to talk about something important as a family. As a family. Jessica told us about the situation. He continued. And we understand it's hard for you, but you have to be reasonable. Reasonable about what? I asked. About the space, Rachel chimed in. This house is big, yes, but 3 adults living together is complicated. The kids need their privacy. They're at an age where they want to start their own family, and you're in a different stage of life. I felt my blood boil. Another stage. Don't take it the wrong way, Sebastian said. We're just saying it might be better for everyone if you considered options. What options? Jessica leaned forward. There are some very nice retirement communities, Hope. Places where you'd be with people your age with nurses' activities. You wouldn't be lonely. A nursing home, I said, my voice flat. It's not a nursing home, Daniel quickly added. They're like communities, and you don't have to go far. There's one here in the city just off the highway. We went to see it. It's nice. You went to see it, I repeated. Without me. An awkward silence. We wanted to surprise you, Jessica said. Look, we even took pictures. She showed me her phone. Pictures of a gray building with gardens, small rooms, elderly people in wheelchairs. I saw myself there in that place, waiting to die. And this house? I asked, my voice trembling. Well, Daniel scratched the back of his neck. Jessica and I would stay here. Eventually, maybe we'd sell it, get something smaller, but that would be later. Of course, I said. Later. The important thing is that you'd be well taken care of, Rachel insisted, and the kids could start their life for real. And who would pay for this community? I asked. More silence. Well, you have your pension from the hospital, Jessica said. And if you sell your car, you'd have enough for the first few months. We'll figure out the rest later. We'll see. My car, the one I bought 5 years ago. the only luxury I had given myself in decades. And if I sell the car, how would I get to work? I still work, in case you've forgotten. Oh, Hope, Rachel sighed. At your age, you should be thinking about retiring, enjoying life. I'm 67. Not 80, I retorted. But you work too much, Jessica said in a syrupy voice. You get tired, you get sick. Wouldn't it be better to rest? I looked at my son. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the floor. Is that what you want, Daniel, for me to leave? He looked up. I saw something in his eyes. Guilt, shame. Mom, we just want what's best for you. What's best for me? I stood up. Or what's best for you? Don't start with your drama, Jessica said, rolling her eyes. It's not drama, Jessica. It's a question. What do you gain if I leave? You gain, she exploded, you gain peace and quiet. You gain care. You gain not having to clean this huge house. This house that I bought. Oh, here we go. Always the same thing. My house, my house. Jessica stood up too. Yes, it's your house. But it's also where your son lives, or what are you going to kick him out? Jessica, calm down, Sebastian said. I won't calm down. I'm sick of this situation. She turned to me. Ever since I came to this house, I've tried to get along with you. But you only know how to play the victim. Everything has to be your way. Well, not anymore, Hope. You're not the only one living here anymore. And if you can't accept that, then yes, maybe you should find another place. The silence that followed was thick. I looked at Daniel. Do you think the same? He rubbed his face. Mom, I think Jessica has a point. You can't keep controlling everything. This house, yes, you bought it. But it's my home too. And if I want to live here with my wife, that's my decision. Your decision. I felt something break in my chest. And what am I? An inconvenience. Nobody said that. Rachel intervened. You don't have to say it, I murmured. I turned and walked up the stairs. Behind me, I heard Jessica. Oh, now she's mad. She'll be over it by tomorrow. And laughter, soft laughter, as if none of this mattered. I went into my room. I locked the door. And this time I did cry. I cried like I hadn't cried in years. I cried for the son I raised, for the sleepless nights when he had a fever, for the 3 jobs I worked to pay for his school, for every dollar I saved, thinking about his future. I cried until there were no tears left. And when I was done, I washed my face. I looked in the mirror. My eyes were red, swollen, deep, dark circles. But I also had something new in my gaze. Decision. I took out my phone. I found Mr. Miller's number. I sent him a message. Mr. Miller, proceed with everything. I want them out of my house as soon as possible. The reply came in seconds. Understood, Mrs. Miller. We will file the lawsuit tomorrow. I put the phone away. I lay down. And before I fell asleep, I whispered into the darkness, Forgive me, Daniel, but I can't save you from yourself anymore. What happened 3 days later would make Jessica stop smiling forever. The next few days were strange. I acted normal, too normal. I said hello in the mornings. I made my breakfast without complaining about the labels. I went to work. I came back. I shut myself in my room. Jessica was confused. I saw her looking at me several times with a frown as if trying to figure out what had changed. Daniel simply avoided me. He left early. He came back late. When we crossed paths, he looked away. Good. Let them think I had given up. Let them think I had accepted my fate as a bothersome old woman who would soon go quietly to a retirement home. But at night when they slept, I worked. I watched. I listened. I investigated. I figured out their routines. Jessica got up at noon. She took a shower. In my master bathroom, which now had a lock on the outside. And she went out. Sometimes to the hair salon, sometimes for coffee with friends. She came back with shopping bags. Zara, Bershka, brands I could never afford for myself. Daniel left early supposedly to look for a job, but he came back smelling of beer, of cigarettes, with red eyes. One Tuesday night while they were watching a movie in the living room, I went into their room again. This time I knew exactly what I was looking for. I checked the pillowcase drawer. I went through the clothes. Nothing. I looked under the bed. Shoe boxes. I opened them one by one. In the third one, I found what I needed. Bank statements, updated to last month. Regular deposits of $1,800 every 15 days. Where was it coming from? I kept looking. There were receipts from bars, from expensive restaurants, one from the Marriott Hotel. A hotel. Why did they need a hotel if they lived here? And then I saw a sealed envelope. I opened it. Inside was a brochure from a real estate agency. Pre-sale apartments, a fancy neighborhood, starting at $280,000. One of the apartments was circled in red marker. A 3-bedroom, $320,000. On the last page in Jessica's handwriting, with the sale of the old lady's house, $300K approx, minus $80K for her. We're left with $2.2 million, plus a bank loan of $1 million, so $3.2 million. Perfect. $80,000 for me, from my $300,000 house. The math of my own betrayal, written in red marker. I took pictures of everything. The bank statements, the brochure, the hotel receipts. I put everything back exactly where it was. I left the room. They were still in the living room. I heard Jessica laughing at something in the movie. I went up to my room. I downloaded the photos to my laptop. I backed them up to the cloud. And then I did something I never thought I would do. I wrote to Patricia. Patricia was my colleague at the hospital. We had worked together for 15 years. She had known Daniel since he was a child. She had watched him grow up. Patty, I need a favor. Do you know anyone who can investigate where some bank deposits are coming from? She replied in minutes. My cousin is an accountant. He works for the IRS. What do you need? I need to know if my son is declaring that income and where it's coming from. Send me the details. I'll let you know tomorrow. I sent her pictures of the bank statements. The next morning, Patricia called me during my break at the hospital. Hope your son is in trouble. What did you find? Those deposits are coming from a shell company, one that's used for fraudulent invoicing. It's tax fraud. If the IRS finds out, he's going to face a massive fine, maybe even jail time. My blood ran cold. Jail? This is serious hope. Your son is receiving dirty money. Someone is using him to launder money or evade taxes. And he's the one who's going to pay if this blows up. How do you know he knows? Because he signs the receipts. He has an account where the money goes. He can't claim he didn't know. I hung up trembling. My son. My son was involved in something illegal. That night I came home determined to talk to him, alone. But when I walked in, I heard agitated voices from the kitchen. I told you you had to be more discreet. Daniel's voice sounded desperate. Don't talk to me like that, Jessica retorted. It's not my fault your mom is so nosy. What happened? Daniel asked. Nothing. It's just... I saw her looking at my phone the other day. I'm sure of it. When I went to the bathroom, my phone was in a different position. You're paranoid. I'm not paranoid. That old woman knows something. I can feel it. Silence. What could she know? Daniel asked, but his voice sounded nervous. I don't know, but we need to speed things up. Talk to her. Convince her to sell the house now, or to sign it over to you. Something. The longer this takes, the riskier it gets. I can't push her anymore. She's already mad. We'll find a way. Jessica's voice turned cold. Because if this falls through, Daniel, I'm leaving. I didn't come here to live with your mom forever. I came because you promised me a life and apartment trips, and so far, all I have are labels in a kitchen that isn't even mine. I love you, Jess. You know that. Love doesn't pay the bills. Money does. I backed away from the door before they could see me. I went up to my room, my heart racing. I had all the pieces now. The illegal money, the plans to sell the house, the pressure for me to leave. It was all connected. I took out my laptop. I opened a new document, and I started writing a timeline, with dates, with evidence, with photos. Every humiliation, every lie, every yellow label. I spent the whole night doing that, organizing my defense like it was a case at the hospital, systematizing the pain. At dawn, I printed everything out, 3 copies, one for the lawyer, one for me, one for, well, I'd see what for. I showered, I got dressed, I made coffee. When I went down to the kitchen, Daniel was already there. He looked terrible, sunken eyes, unshaven. Good morning, I said calmly. He looked at me, surprised. Good morning, Mom. I made my breakfast. Toast, black coffee, fruit. He kept staring at me. Are you okay? He finally asked. I looked him in the eye. Very well, son. Why? I don't know. You look different. I smiled. I slept well, that's all. A lie. I hadn't slept at all, but he didn't need to know that. I finished my breakfast. I washed my plate. I gathered my things. I'm off to the hospital. I'll be back tonight. Mom, he stopped me before I left. About the other day, about the retirement home. You don't have to decide now. I know, I replied. Don't worry. And I left. In the car before starting the engine, I called Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, it's Hope. I have more information. I think my son is involved in something illegal. I have proof. Come to the office. Today, if you can. I'm on my way. I hung up. I started the car, and as I drove through the streets of Chicago with the morning sun on my face, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power. Because I was no longer the foolish old woman who put up with everything for love. Now I was the lioness protecting what was hers, and no one was going to drive this lioness out of her den. But what was about to happen would not only get them out of my house, it would make them kneel before me. On Thursday, I returned from a 14-hour shift. It had been brutal. 2 code blues, a patient who didn't make it, a family crying in my arms asking me why God had taken her. I didn't have answers. I never did. I came home dragging my feet. Everything hurt, my back, my knees, even my soul. All I wanted was a hot bath and to sleep. I opened the door. The smell hit me first. Food, roast chicken, potatoes, that smell that makes you salivate instantly. I walked into the kitchen, and I stood frozen. My fridge was open. Empty. Completely empty. On the floor next to the trash can were my things. The yogurt I had bought 2 days ago, the ham, the cheese, the tomatoes, the tortillas, all thrown into a black bag. What? I whispered. Oh, you're back. Jessica walked into the kitchen, wiping her hands on a napkin. She was wearing a new blouse, very expensive. I could see it from the tag still hanging from the collar. I had to throw out your food. You did what? It was spoiled, she said with a shrug. It smelled horrible. It was contaminating my fridge. You know how it is. When things get mixed up, everything ends up smelling bad. That food was fine. I bought it 2 days ago. Well, I smelled it and it was rotten. She looked at me with those cold eyes. Besides Hope, I already told you. If you want to store food, buy your own fridge, like I did. I looked at the trash bag. There it was, my week's worth of groceries. $20 thrown in the trash. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't explosive. It was silent. Like when a rope that's been stretched too tight finally breaks. It just snapped. Where's Daniel? I asked in a hollow voice. In the living room. Why? I didn't answer. I walked to the living room. My son was sprawled on the couch looking at his phone, beer in hand. The third empty bottle was on the coffee table. Daniel. He looked up. What's up, Mom? Your wife threw my food in the trash. Oh yeah, she told me. It was spoiled. It wasn't spoiled. Mom. He sighed as if I were a bratty child. If Jessica says it was bad, it was bad. She knows about these things. She knows. I felt my voice break. I've been buying food for 40 years. I think I know when something is rotten. Just drop it. He stood up, stumbling a little. He was drunk. I'm tired of your drama. My drama? The words came out like knives. My drama, Daniel. She threw out $20 worth of food. $20 that I earned working while you sit here drinking beer that I paid for. You didn't pay for this beer. Jessica bought it. With what money, Daniel? With what money does Jessica buy things if she doesn't work? That's not your problem. Of course it's my problem. You live in my house, eat my food, use my utilities. That's enough, he yelled. For the first time in years, my son yelled at me. I'm sick of it. Sick of everything having to be about you. Your house, your food, your money. We get it. You did everything. You're the great martyr, the saintly mother who sacrificed everything. The words hit me like fists. Daniel. No. I'm tired of it, Mom. I'm tired of feeling guilty for existing, of feeling like I owe you every breath because you worked so hard. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask for Dad to die. Those were your choices, not mine. The silence that followed was unbearable. Jessica appeared in the doorway. She had a small, triumphant smile. I looked at my son, at this 32-year-old man with eyes red from alcohol and rage, and I didn't recognize him. The boy who used to hug my legs when he had nightmares. The teenager who brought me flowers on Mother's Day with his first paycheck. The young man who cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend left him. That boy was gone. In his place was a stranger who hated me. All right, I said, my voice so low I could barely hear myself. All right. I turned, went up the stairs, went into my room, locked the door, and then for the first time in my life, I felt like I couldn't breathe. Not physically. My lungs were working, but something deeper, something in the center of my chest had closed up. I sat on the bed, took out my phone. With trembling hands, I dialed my sister Lucy. She lived in another state. We didn't see each other much, but we had always been there for each other. "Hope, what's wrong?" she answered, concerned. It was 10 at night. And then I broke down. I told her everything. Between sobs, between hiccups, the labels, the messages, the loan, the food in the trash. Daniel's words. She didn't interrupt. She just listened. When I finished, there was silence. "Hope," she finally said in a serious voice, "you have to get him out of your house. He's my son. He's ungrateful." Then her voice was hard. "And that woman is a snake. They're going to leave you with nothing, and when they do, they'll leave. And you'll be left alone without a house, without money, without anything." "But there are no buts, sister. I know you love him, but love can't be that blind. Sometimes loving someone means letting them fall. It's the only thing that wakes them up." I cried harder. I can't do that to him." "Then prepare to lose everything, because that's what's going to happen." She hung up. I stayed there alone in the dark with the phone in my hand, and for the first time I had a terrible thought. I thought, what if I'm the one who leaves? What if I leave them the house and go? It would be easier, less painful. I could rent a small room, work until I retire, die peacefully knowing I didn't break up my family. But then I remembered something. I remembered the day I bought this house. Daniel was 12. We had been renting a horrible apartment in a dangerous neighborhood for 2 years, but I had saved dollar by dollar for 5 years. The day I signed the deeds, I came home crying with happiness. "My son," I told him, "we have a house, a real house. No one can take it from us." He hugged me. He smelled like kids' soap and dreams. "No one, Mom. Not even if we don't pay rent. No one, because it's ours, yours and mine." I opened my eyes. Yours and mine. Not Jessica's. Not her parents'. Not anyone else's. Mine. I got up. I dried my tears. I opened my dresser drawer. I took out the folder where I had all the evidence, the photos, the documents, and I took out something else. The original deeds to the house. The ones I had retrieved from Daniel's room and kept in mine. I opened them. There was my name, Hope Miller, owner. I ran my fingers over the letters. 40 years of work, 40 years of pain, 40 years of sacrifice. It was all on this paper. And no one was going to take it from me. I took my phone. I found my chat with Mr. Miller. I wrote, "Mr. Miller, I need to see you tomorrow. Urgent. We're going to accelerate everything." "What happened, Mrs. Miller?" "I'm not waiting anymore. I want them out of my house by next week." "Understood. First thing tomorrow. I'll prepare the documents." I put the phone away. I lay down. And this time, I didn't cry, because the tears were gone. In their place was something harder, colder, determination. My son thought I was weak. that I was going to give up. But he forgot something. He forgot that women who raise children alone, who work 3 jobs, who endure pain and keep standing, we don't break. We transform. And when someone touches what we love most, we become relentless. Daniel was about to learn something I had taught him when he was a child. Every action has a consequence. And his were just about to arrive. What I did on Saturday morning made Jessica lose that smile forever. On Friday at 8 in the morning, I was sitting across from Mr. Miller. This time, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was as firm as a rock. "Mrs. Miller, I've prepared everything." He placed several documents on the desk. "Here is the eviction notice. Here is the lawsuit for the unpaid loan, $62,000 with interest. And here," he pulled out another paper, "is the lawsuit for moral damages and improper use of property. We estimate an additional $15,000. "Moral damages?" I asked. "You have suffered psychological abuse in your own home, systematic humiliations. That has legal value." He looked at me seriously. "If we take this to court, we could win even more. But I warn you, it will be long, painful, and public." "How long?" 6 months, maybe a year." I shook my head. "I don't have a year. I need them out now." "Then we have another option." He leaned back in his chair. "We confront them. We show them all the evidence. We make it clear that either they leave peacefully or we destroy them legally. With the evidence you have, especially the illegal money, your son could go to jail." The word jail hit me in the chest. "I don't want him to go to jail." "I know, but he doesn't have to know that." Mr. Miller leaned forward. "Fear can be more effective than any trial. If he thinks he could go to prison, he'll cooperate. And if he doesn't, then we proceed with everything. No mercy." He paused. "Ma'am, I know he's your son, but if you don't set boundaries now, they will destroy you. They will sell your house. They will leave you on the street. And they won't look back." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. "Let's do it. But I want to be present. I want to see their faces when they find out." "Are you sure?" "Completely." I signed the papers, all of them, the eviction notice, the lawsuit for the loan, everything. "Mr. Miller put them in a manila envelope. "When do you want us to serve them?" "Tomorrow, Saturday morning, when they're home, relaxed, confident." He nodded slowly. 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'll go personally with a process server. Will you be there?" "I'll be there." That night I came home earlier than usual. Jessica was in the living room painting her nails. Daniel was asleep on the couch with his mouth open. "Hi," I said. Jessica barely looked at me. "Hi." I went up to my room, but not to hide. This time, to plan. I took an old suitcase out of the closet. I started packing my most important things. Documents, photos, clothes, my hospital uniforms, everything I didn't want them to touch, because tomorrow after the notice, I didn't know what might happen. I stored the suitcase under the bed. Then I did something I never do. I opened my jewelry box, the one my mom gave me before she died. There were few things inside: a gold ring, my wedding earrings, a thin chain, and a photo, and an old faded photo of my husband, Richard, smiling, with baby Daniel in his arms. I took it out. I looked at it for a long time. "Forgive me, my love," I whispered. "I know you wanted me to take care of our son, but I think taking care of him now means letting him go, letting him fall so he can learn." I put the photo away. I closed the jewelry box, and that night, for the first time in weeks, I slept soundly, without nightmares, without tears, because there was nothing left to decide. The decision was made. On Saturday, I woke up at 7 in the morning. I showered. I dressed in my best clothes: black pants, a white blouse, closed-toe shoes. I did my hair. I put on a little lipstick. I looked in the mirror, and I saw a different woman. I wasn't the exhausted nurse. I wasn't the humiliated mother. I was Hope Miller, owner of this house, a woman who raised a son alone, a woman who saved lives, a woman who was not going to be walked over anymore. I went down to the kitchen. I made coffee. I made scrambled eggs. I warmed up tortillas. Daniel came down with swollen eyes. "What are you doing?" he asked, surprised. "Making breakfast. Want some—" "Yeah." I served him. He ate in silence, looking at me out of the corner of his eye. Jessica came down half an hour later. She was wearing a pink silk robe, clean face. Without makeup, she looked younger, almost vulnerable. "Good morning," I said. "Good morning," she replied suspiciously. "What are we celebrating?" "Nothing. I just felt like making a nice breakfast." I served her too. "Sit down." She sat but didn't touch the food. "What do you want, Hope?" "Want nothing. Can I make you breakfast?" "You can, but it's weird. You've barely spoken to us for weeks, and now this." I smiled. "Maybe I'm just tired of fighting." Daniel and Jessica exchanged glances. At 9:30, my phone rang. It was Mr. Miller. "Ma'am, we're arriving." "Perfect. I'll open the door." I hung up. "Who was that?" Daniel asked. "No one important." I stood up. "I'll get the door. I'm expecting a delivery." I went to the door. I opened it. There they were, Mr. Miller in his gray suit and a younger man with a briefcase, the process server. "Good morning, Mrs. Miller." "Good morning. Please come in." They entered. Daniel came out of the kitchen. "Who are you?" he asked. The lawyer spoke in a clear, professional voice. "Good morning. I am Ernest Miller, an attorney. I am here to serve Daniel Miller and Jessica Miller with a legal complaint filed by Mrs. Hope Miller." The silence that followed was absolute. Jessica appeared in the kitchen doorway. "A lawsuit. What are you talking about?" The process server took the documents from his briefcase. "Daniel Miller, you are hereby served with 1. Immediate eviction from the property located at 847 Juarez Avenue. 2. A lawsuit for default on a loan documented before a notary public total amount due $62,000. 3. A lawsuit for moral damages and improper use of private property, estimated amount $15,000. Daniel turned pale. "Mom, what is this?" "This," I said in a firm voice, "is the end." Jessica snatched the papers from the process server's hands. "This is insane. You can't sue us. We're your family." "Family." I repeated the word as if it were poison. "The family that put labels on my own food. The family that planned to sell my house from under me. The family that threw $20 worth of my food in the trash." "Mom, wait." Daniel took a step toward me. "We can talk. You don't have to do this. There's nothing left to talk about, Daniel. You had months to talk. You had 1,000 chances to treat me like your mother, and you chose to treat me like trash." "That's not true. I love you. You love me." The laugh that escaped me was bitter. "You loved me so much you told your wife to convince me to sell my house. You loved me so much you told me to find another place to live. You loved me so much you screamed that you didn't ask to be born." He fell silent. The lawyer continued. "You have 72 hours to vacate the property. If you do not do so voluntarily, we will proceed with a judicial eviction. Additionally, Mr. Miller has 30 days to respond to the loan lawsuit. Otherwise, we will proceed with asset seizure." "We have nowhere to go!" Jessica screamed. "That is not my client's problem," the lawyer replied coldly. "You have family, you have options, but you no longer have the right to be here." "You're a monster," Jessica spat at me. "A bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son happy." I looked her straight in the eye. "No, I'm a woman who no longer allows herself to be trampled on in her own house." I turned around. I went up the stairs. Behind me, I heard shouts, cries, pleas. I closed my bedroom door. I sat on the bed. And I breathed. For the first time in months, I truly breathed. Because the weight I had been carrying for so long had finally been lifted. I was no longer their victim. I was their judge. But what I found at my door 3 hours later would make me doubt everything. 3 hours after the lawyer left, everything was silent. A thick, dangerous silence. I stayed in my room, listening, waiting. I heard hurried footsteps, doors slamming, Jessica crying, Daniel talking on the phone in a desperate voice, and then nothing. I peeked out the window. The car was still in the driveway. They hadn't left. I went downstairs carefully. The living room was empty, the kitchen too. Then I saw something on the refrigerator door. A note, written in Daniel's handwriting. "Mom, we went to Jessica's parents. We'll be back tomorrow to talk. Please reconsider. We're family. Don't do this." I ripped the note off. I crumpled it up. I threw it in the trash. Family. How easy it was to use that word when it suited you. The rest of Saturday I spent cleaning, taking off all the yellow labels one by one with rage, with satisfaction. Every label I tore off was a piece of dignity I got back. I cleaned out Jessica's fridge. I emptied it completely. I threw all her food in the trash. I felt a dark pleasure doing it. Now you know how it feels, I thought. That night I slept with the door locked. Sunday dawned cloudy, gray. I got up early. I made coffee. I sat in the kitchen waiting. I knew they would be back, and I was right. At 10 in the morning I heard the car, voices, the door opening. They came in. Daniel, Jessica, and her parents, the 4 of them. Sebastian came in first, his face red with anger. "Where is she?" he yelled. "I'm right here," I said, coming out of the kitchen. He saw me and advanced toward me, his finger pointed. "Who do you think you are suing, my daughter? I'm the owner of this house, and your daughter is an abuser." "My daughter is no abuser. You're the one who can't get along with people." "Sebastian," I said with a calm I didn't know I had, "your daughter put labels on my own food, in my own house. She threw my food in the trash. She treated me like trash. And you told me to go to a nursing home so they could have my house." "Nobody said that," Rachel intervened. "Of course you did, here in this living room 2 weeks ago. We were looking for options, for your own good." "For my good," I repeated. "Is selling my house for my good, putting me in a nursing home and leaving me with crumbs, is for my good." "That house is worth $300,000, Jessica yelled. "We weren't going to leave you with nothing." "Ah," I nodded. "You were going to leave me $80,000, like your note says, the one I found, where you calculated how much you'd have left after selling my house." She fell silent. "What note?" Daniel asked. "The note your wife wrote on an apartment brochure, where she planned to steal $220,000 from my own house." "It's not stealing," Jessica mumbled. "We were going to give you your share." "My share?" The rage rose in my throat. "My share of my house. Are you listening to yourself?" Sebastian stepped between us. "Look, Mrs. Miller, I know you're upset, but we can fix this without lawyers, without drama, like civilized people." "I don't want to fix anything anymore." "Don't be stubborn," he yelled. "If this goes to court, everyone loses." "Not me. I have all the proof, messages, documents, witnesses." I looked at them one by one. "And I have something else, something I found out this week." Daniel turned pale. "Mom, don't." "Your son," I said, looking at Sebastian, "is receiving illegal money, deposits from a shell company, tax fraud. If the IRS finds out, he's going to jail." The silence was absolute. "That's a lie," Jessica said, but her voice was trembling. "It's not a lie. I have the bank statements. An accountant has already reviewed them. And if this goes to trial, that information will come out." Daniel collapsed onto the couch. "Mom, I didn't know. A friend offered me that job. I was just signing invoices. I didn't know it was illegal." "But you signed? And you received the money? And you spent it?" My voice was ice. "On hotels, on expensive restaurants, on clothes for your wife, while you told me you didn't have money to pay the light bill." "Stop it!" Jessica screamed. "Stop playing the victim. You're the one destroying this family." "I didn't destroy anything. You did. Label by label, humiliation by humiliation." "They were just labels. It's not that big of a deal." "They weren't just labels," I yelled for the first time, and my voice echoed through the house. "They were a message that I didn't matter anymore, that in my own house I was a stranger, that everything I built, everything I worked for, everything I sacrificed was worth nothing." The silence that followed was deafening. "You have until Tuesday to get out of my house," I said in a firm voice. "If you don't, the police are coming, the sheriff, and they'll remove you by force, with all your things on the street, for the neighbors to see." "Mom, please." Daniel knelt before me, tears rolling down his cheeks. "Please don't do this. I'm your son, your only son." Something in my chest broke seeing him like that, but I didn't back down. "Precisely because you're my son, Daniel, because I love you, I have to do this." I knelt down to his level. "I spent your whole life saving you. From your illnesses, from your debts, from your mistakes, and all I managed to do was make you believe there would always be someone to clean up your messes. That's not true. Yes, it is, and you know it." I wiped a tear from his cheek. "You're 32 years old. You don't work. You live off handouts. Your wife doesn't work, and you were planning to sell my house to continue living without responsibilities. What kind of life is that? The one we could have? No, the one I allowed you to have. But that's over." I stood up. "It's time for you to grow up, son. And if that means losing you, I accept it." "You're a monster!" Jessica screamed. "No, I'm a mother who will no longer allow herself to be used." Sebastian took a step forward. "This isn't over. We're going to hire a lawyer. We're going to fight." "Perfect," I replied. "My lawyer is waiting for you, but I'm warning you. Every day you spend here after Tuesday, I'm going to sue you for damages, $100 a day, plus the $62,000 from the loan, plus the $15,000 for moral damages. Do the math." "You have no heart," Rachel whispered. "I did, but you broke it into pieces. Now all I have is dignity, and that you won't take from me." I turned and went upstairs. Behind me, I heard crying, shouting curses. I closed my bedroom door. I sat on the bed, and the tears I had been holding back finally came. Not of sadness, but of liberation. Because finally, I was free. But what happened on Monday night would change everything, and it would make me see my son in a new light. Monday was the longest day of my life. I went to the hospital early, a 12-hour shift. I needed to be away. I needed air. My colleagues noticed something was wrong. Patricia took me to the cafeteria during our break. "Hope you look terrible. What happened?" "I did what you said. I sued them. I'm kicking them out of my house." She hugged me. "You did the right thing." "Then why do I feel so bad?" "Because he's your son. And even though he hurt you, he's still your son." She squeezed my hands. "But remember, sometimes letting someone fall is the only way for them to learn to stand up on their own." I got home at 8 p.m. Daniel's car wasn't there. I opened the door with my heart racing. The house was silent, but something was different. I went into the living room. Boxes everywhere, folded clothes, folded objects wrapped in newspaper. They were packing. I went upstairs. The door to Daniel's room was open. Jessica was there packing clothes into a suitcase. She saw me and stopped. "Happy?" she said in a dry voice. "We're leaving. Is that what you wanted?" I wanted respect. It wasn't too much to ask. "Respect." She let out a bitter laugh. "You know what? You're right. We're leaving. And you know what else? I'm taking your son far away from you." "Daniel makes his own decisions." "Oh, really?" She crossed her arms. "Don't be so sure. Because I value him. I believe in him. Not like you, who only reminds him of everything you did for him, as if it were an eternal debt." Her words hit me. "I never made him feel that." "Of course you did. Every time you speak. I worked, I paid, I sacrificed. Do you know what that does to a person? It makes them feel like they'll never be enough, that they can never repay you for what you did." I stayed silent. "That's why he drinks. That's why he can't get a job, because he's so afraid of disappointing the great Hope Miller, the woman who did it all alone, that he'd rather not even try." "That's not true." "Yes, it is, and deep down you know it. But it's easier to blame me, to make me the villain, when the truth is you kept him this way, dependent, useless, because if he grew up he wouldn't need you anymore, and you need to be needed." I felt the floor move beneath me. "Get out of my house," I whispered. "With pleasure." She walked out of the room, bumping my shoulder as she passed. I stood there in the hallway, breathing heavily. Was she right? Was all of this my fault? I went downstairs like a zombie. I went into the kitchen. I sat at the table, and then I heard the front door open. It was Daniel. He came in alone, without Jessica. His eyes were red. "Mom, I need to talk to you." "There's nothing to—" "Please," his voice broke. "Just hear me out. 5 minutes." I nodded without looking at him. He sat across from me. "You're right about everything," he said. "Everything. I'm useless, ungrateful, a terrible son. I know." I didn't respond. "Jessica left me an hour ago. She told me that if I didn't convince you to drop the lawsuit, she would leave. I told her I couldn't ask you to do that, and she left." He wiped his eyes. "Her parents came to pick her up. She told me to call her when I grew up and became a real man. But as long as I was living off my mom, she didn't want anything to do with me." I felt a bitter satisfaction. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," he continued. "Sorry for being so weak, so cowardly. Sorry for yelling at you that I didn't ask to be born. It was the most horrible thing I've ever said in my life." Tears started to fall down my cheeks. "Mom, I did ask to be born, because having you as a mom was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I ruined everything. Daniel." "No, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "That money from the invoices, I did know it was wrong. Not at first, but later I did. And I kept doing it because it was easy, because it was fast money, and because Jessica wanted things. And I wanted her to see me as someone successful. Son, I'm going to pay back the money. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get out of your house. Not because you're forcing me, but because it's the right thing to do. Because I have to learn to stand on my own." He looked me in the eyes. "But will you let me stay for a week, just one, to find a job, to find a room? And then I'll go." I wanted to say no, that it was too late, that the damage was done, but he was my son, and despite everything, he was still my son. "1 week," I said, "but under my rules. Whatever they are. No alcohol. You look for a job every day. You pay me something for the room, even if it's just $50, and you go to therapy." "Therapy?" "Yes, because Jessica was right about one thing. You and I have things to work out, and we can't do it alone." He was silent for a moment. "Okay, I'll do it. And about the loan." I took out my phone. I called Mr. Miller. "Mr. Miller, it's Hope. I want you to freeze the loan lawsuit. Don't withdraw it. Just pause it to see what happens." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Understood. And the eviction." I looked at Daniel. "Pause that too, for 1 week." "As you wish." I hung up. Daniel was looking at me with eyes full of tears. "Thank you, Mom." "Show me." He nodded. He got up to leave, but he stopped at the door. "Mom, why? Why, after everything I did to you, are you still giving me chances?" I looked at him, and for the first time in days, I felt something warm in my chest. "Because that's what mothers do, son. Not because it's easy, not because it's fair, but because love, true love, doesn't give up. But it also doesn't let itself be walked over. And that's the difference you have to learn." He stood there in the doorway, and for the first time in years, I saw something in his eyes that I had lost. I saw the boy I knew, the boy who hugged me when he was scared, the boy who promised to take care of me when he grew up. That boy was still there, buried under layers of mistakes and lies, but he was there, and for the first time I had hope. Not that everything would be fixed overnight, but that maybe, just maybe not all was lost. The next 3 days were strange. Daniel kept his word. He got up early. He printed out resumes. He went out to look for a job. I watched him from a distance, and slowly, very slowly, we started talking. Not about the labels, not about Jessica, not about the past. We just talked, like we hadn't in years. On Thursday, he came home with good news. "Mom, I got a job at a hardware store. It's not much, but it's a start." I felt proud, genuinely proud. "That's great, son." That night we cooked together. I made rice. He prepared the chicken, like when he was a teenager and helped me in the kitchen. And while we were eating, he told me something that broke my heart. "Mom, I found a room, downtown. It's small, but I can afford it with my salary." "When are you moving?" "On Monday, that is if you want me to go." I looked at him. Do you want to go? I think so. I think I need to. Because if I stay, I'll fall back into the same old habits. I need to learn to live alone, to pay for my things, to be responsible. I nodded, even though something inside me was breaking. All right. Can I come visit you on Sundays? Always. This is still your house, but now on different terms. He smiled. A sad but real smile. Thanks, Mom. And in that moment, I knew I had done the right thing, that letting him fall had been the only way for him to learn to fly. But what happened on Sunday, the day before he left, was the real closure we both needed. Sunday dawned with a bright sun. Daniel got up early. I heard him in the kitchen making coffee. I went downstairs. He was there looking out the window. Good morning, I said. He turned around. He had something in his hand. An envelope. Good morning, Mom. I need to give you this. He handed me the envelope. I opened it. Inside was money. $120 bills. I counted quickly. $300. What's this? It's what I owe you for this week. $100 for rent and $200 as the first payment on my debt. Daniel, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. I owe you $62,000 right, with interest. Well, I'm going to pay you back. I don't know how long it will take me, maybe years, but I'm going to do it. I felt a lump in my throat. Son. And I also want to give you this. He took a folded paper out of his pocket. It's a payment plan. I made it with an accountant I met. I can pay you $300 a month. In 18 years, I'll be paid up. 18 years. I looked at the paper. It was all calculated. Date by date, payment by payment. Daniel, you're 32. In 18 years, you'll be 50. I know, but it's my responsibility, and I'm going to honor it. He paused. Because that's what you taught me. That debts are paid, that promises are kept. And I broke a lot of promises, Mom, but I'm not going to break this one. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I hugged him, and he hugged me back. Like when he was a child. Like when he was scared. Like when he needed me. Only now it was different. Now he didn't need me to save him. He was hugging me because he loved me. And that changed everything. That afternoon, I helped him pack his last things. While we were folding clothes, he said, You know, Jessica texted me yesterday. I looked up. What did she want? She asked if you had dropped the lawsuit. I told her no, that you were right, that I had been an idiot. He smiled bitterly. She called me a loser, said I would never amount to anything, and that she hoped I would rot in my mom's house forever. I'm sorry, son. Don't be. He looked at me. Because she was right about one thing. I was a loser, but I don't want to be one anymore. And if I have to lose her to stop being one, then so be it. I sat on the bed. Do you miss her? Sometimes, but more than her, I miss who I thought I was when I was with her. He closed the suitcase. I thought I was important, successful, but it was a lie. It was all money that wasn't mine, a house that wasn't mine, a life that wasn't mine. And now I have a tiny room, a job that pays $600 a week, and a $62,000 debt. He let out a laugh. But it's mine. It's my life. For the first time in years. I felt proud, deep and real. Your dad would be proud. He fell silent, his eyes filled with tears. You think so? I know so. Because your dad made mistakes too. A lot of them. But he always got back up. He always tried. Always. And that's what you're doing. He wiped his tears. Can I confess something to you? Of course. For years I hated you, not all the time, but sometimes, because you were always perfect, the perfect nurse, the perfect mother, the one who did everything right. And I could never live up to that. I was always the son who needed help, the sick son, the son who cost money. Son. And when I met Jessica, she made me feel enough, like I didn't have to be perfect, like I could just be. He took a deep breath. But the truth is, she didn't love me. She loved what I could give her, and when I couldn't give her any more, she left. Not all women are like that. I know, because you're not like that. You could have left. You could have let me fall when all this started. But you didn't. You gave me one last chance, and that? Mom, no one else would have done that. He hugged me again, and in that hug was everything. Forgiveness, pain, love, hope. At 5 p.m, the moving truck arrived. Well, it wasn't really a truck. It was a friend's pickup that Daniel had hired for $20. Between the two of us, we loaded his things. There weren't many. A disassembled bed, boxes of clothes, some furniture. The neighbors watched us from their windows. Mrs. Gable from next door came out. "Is the boy leaving Hope?" "Yes, Mrs. Gable. He's moving out on his own." "Oh, that's wonderful. It's about time. A man should stand on his own 2 feet." She looked at Daniel. "Work hard, son, and visit your mother often. She needs you." "I will, Mrs. Gable, I promise." When we finished loading everything, Daniel stood in front of the house, looking at it, as if he were seeing it for the first time, or the last. "I grew up here," he said softly. "I took my first steps here. I had nightmares here, and you calmed me down. I had breakfast here before school every day for 20 years. He turned to me. This house is my history, and I'm going to miss it. It will always be here, and so will I. I know, but it won't be the same, and that's okay, because it's what I need." He got into the truck. "See you on Sunday. Okay for lunch?" "I'll be waiting. I'll make your favorite. Pot roast. Whatever you want." He smiled. He closed the truck door, and he left. I stood there, on the sidewalk, watching him drive away. And when the truck turned the corner and disappeared, something inside me let go. I cried. But not from sadness, from relief. Because finally, I had let my son go. Not because I didn't love him, but because loving him meant letting him grow. Even if it hurt. Even if it left me alone. 6 months later. I'm sitting in my living room. My house is quiet. But it's no longer a heavy silence. It's a peaceful silence. Daniel comes every Sunday, as promised. Sometimes he brings food. Sometimes we cook together. He tells me about his work, his colleagues, about how he's saving money. He's already paid me $2,000 of his debt. Small payments, but consistent. Last week he told me something that filled my heart. "Mom, I met someone. Her name is Laura. She works at the bakery on the corner of my block. She's a good person. Not like, well, you know." "And what does Laura do?" "She works. She studies at night. Business administration. She wants to open her own business someday." He smiled. "I like that she has her own dreams, that she doesn't need me to solve her life for her. I'd like to meet her. I'll bring her soon, but slowly. I'm taking everything slowly now. And that gave me more joy than anything else." Jessica tried to come back 3 months ago. She showed up at the door crying, saying she had made a mistake, that she loved Daniel, that he should forgive her. But Daniel told her something I'll never forget. "I have nothing to forgive you for. You taught me something important. You taught me that love isn't labels on a refrigerator. It's not staying with someone because it's comfortable. It's choosing every day to be there. And you didn't choose me. You chose my house, my money, my comfort. And when that was gone, you were gone too. So thank you. But no." She left crying. And Daniel came back into the house. He hugged me. "Thanks for not letting me fall for the same thing. I didn't do anything. You did it on your own." "No, I did it because you taught me, the hard way, with lawsuits, with pain. But you taught me." Today is Sunday. I made pot roast Daniel's favorite. I also invited Patricia and my sister Lucy, who came from out of state. Daniel arrived with Laura, a pretty girl with warm eyes and a shy smile. "Mom, this is Laura." "It's a pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Daniel has told me so much about you." "I hope good things." "Only good things," she said with sincerity. He told me how you saved him, not just when he was a child, now too. I didn't save him. He saved himself. Daniel looked at me. No, Mom, you saved me by letting me fall. It was the shock I needed to wake up. We ate together. We laughed. We talked. And at that table, surrounded by my son, who had finally found his way, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had finally done the right thing. I loved my son enough not to save him anymore. And in that act of tough love that hurts but heals, I saved him for real. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my living room. I looked around. There were no more yellow labels. There was no more tension. There was no more hate. There was just a house. My house. The house I bought with my hard work. The house I defended with my dignity. And I realized something. True wealth is not in what you own. It's in what you don't allow to be taken from you. Your dignity, your respect, your self-love. No one can take that from you. Unless you let them. And I was never going to let them again. If this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you're watching from. Give it a like if you believe that sometimes to love is to let go. And subscribe to keep hearing real stories of women who did not give up in the face of injustice on Elderly Stories. Because true strength is not in enduring everything. It is in knowing when to say, enough is enough. And getting up again and again and again until your dignity is yours once more. The end.